good. Okay, let's move on to our tech corner today. What we're going to look at today is a product from MicroRidge. This is the Mobile Collect. This is a wireless measurement system. Essentially what it does is it allows you to take any of your digital gauges and make them wireless. So rather than having your tether running off, if anybody's ever used tethered data collection devices, you know the issues that you can have with that. This will take any of your digital gauges and make them wireless. And it's very simple to use. So I'm going to come over here to our gauge cam.
The gauge cam.
The gauge cam. And kind of show you what this is, what MicroRidge, what their Mobile Collect system is made up of. What I have here right in front of me, this is simply a Mitutoyo 6-inch caliper, absolute digimatic. You see the display on the front, but on the back we have got the MicroRidge module. You'll see it's about 2 inches long, maybe 1.5 inches wide, I don't know, 3/4 of an inch thick, and it's tethered to the gauge by this little interface cable. That's all there is to it, to the remote module. This is what goes on to your digital gauge. The other half of this is the Mobile Collect USB base. This is the receiver, I guess you could call it, and simply tethered via a USB cable into my laptop. That is all there is to it, and this works surprisingly simple. So we're going to go to our screen share right here. I've got a simple Excel document, and anytime I click the data collection button on my gauge, my caliper, you see the number shows up in Excel. So it doesn't, and this will actually operate up to 165 feet away from the base. So from the measurement device to the base can be up to 165 feet. And so you can take your data pretty much anywhere you want. Now, we're collecting this into Excel. We could collect it into any piece of software you're running. It could be your favorite SPC software, it could be Excel, it could be Word, it could be an email document. And the reason for this is because what comes with the MicroRidge gauges is a simple little piece of software called WedgeLink Express. Very basic. All this does, it's really pretty clever, all it does is it takes the data that comes into the base anytime you click the measurement key and converts it into keystrokes. So as far as the computer is concerned, anytime you hit the measurement button, it just thinks somebody has typed in data. So it doesn't matter where the cursor is at. If the cursor happens to be an Excel spreadsheet in a cell, that's where the data appears. If it happens to be in your favorite SPC software, wherever that cursor is, that's where the data appears. So very simple. So let's talk about a couple of features of this before we move into the setup. As I mentioned, it has a range of 165 feet. And it will, I mentioned that this will connect to any of your digital gauges. The reason for that is the secret is in, obviously, the interface cable that I'm showing here on our little camera, on our gauge cam. This cable, they make cables that will connect to Mitutoyo, Silvac Opto, LMI, Starrett, Mar, Fowler Opto, Brown and Sharp Opto. I think there's an Ono Soki. So, I mean, any common gauge that digital gauge that you have on your shop floor, more than likely there is a cable that is going to connect to it. Also, you're not locked in to the cable. The cable and the box are two separate entities. So the remote module, if I wanted to change this from a Mitutoyo and connect it to, let's say, an Ono Soki gauge, all I would do was pop off 3 screws, take off the back, replace the cable, put the back on, plug it in. 3 or 4 minutes, I've switched gauges.
Good to go.
So good to go. Very simple. We'll get it. This also has an internal antenna, which I'll get back to in a little bit, and it only weighs 1.5 ounces. So this is actually it affects the balance a little bit, but not a whole lot. It's very light. Actually, almost a better balance than if you've used a gauge that has a cable hanging off it and you're dragging it. This actually works much better. And wireless is the way to go. And we'll get to we'll get to some of the worries some of you have about wireless in just one second. But first of all, let's go into the setup. So let me close out of a couple of documents here, and let me get out to my desktop here, and we'll load the yes, if I can figure out how to run my own computer, we'll get out here to the
can't get Davis out of our
Mobile Collect Express. Okay, so we're into the Mobile Collect setup. This is basically what you need to do to set up your Mobile Collect wireless system. It does almost everything for you. It's pretty straightforward. I open up the Mobile Collect, I say find the base unit. It takes a couple seconds, and it will suck in the data from the base unit. So everything we need to know about the base unit is now populated in here. I can change some settings on the base unit if I wanted to. I could change the transmit frequency. We'll get to that in a second. You can also control the setup for the mobile module itself. So if I want to change how the mobile module is configured, I can do that. Some of the things you might do with that is, this is currently set up to take a single measurement anytime I click the measurement key. But I could set it up for continuous measurement. Or maybe I want it to, whenever I tell it to take a measure, I want it to take 20 measurements or 30 measurements with one tap of the key. I can do that. Or I can say, take measurements for 30 seconds. So those are ways that you can configure the module. The module can also, if you have the right module, the module can also be configured to accept commands. So the way I've been running the caliper here, I've been telling it to take data by clicking the button. You could also run unattended, which if you had some sort of automated fixture with some digital indicators, you could send a command to the fixture saying, take a measurement right now and run it unattended. You don't need somebody to click the button. Okay, so let's get to the important thing. I'll swing back around here. We get to the important thing. The big question a lot of people have, a lot of the worries they have about wireless devices is, if you have experience with wireless gauging, you may have had problems in the past because sometimes if you work in a very noisy RF environment, you have welders, or maybe you have a lot of other communications equipment running, that you can have RF interference, which can cause problems with some RF-based wireless gauging systems. MicroRidge has really kind of taken care of that problem with their mobile collect. And here's what they do. There's a couple things. Number one, they work in the Wi-Fi range, the 2.45 gigahertz range. Now, when we first heard that, we were a little worried because our thought was, oh my gosh, you're going to try to operate in the same frequency range as all my Wi-Fi, and I know here we've got 5 Wi-Fi channels running. So the way they get around that is, number one, their center frequency isn't a center frequency of one of the Wi-Fi channels. Same frequency range, not the same center frequencies. So they tend to be off-band. But even if there was overlap, the transmitter only comes on for milliseconds. So your Wi-Fi isn't even going to see the transmit come on. The Wi-Fi is going to blow right past it. So will the gauge. If there was any problem, they have a little utility on here called an RF channel sniffer, which simply goes out and scans the frequency range that the mobile collect works in, and looks for what are the busy RF channels, and simply tells you, look, these channels are busy, why don't you check, why don't you select channel 24 instead? And you would simply reprogram this and you'd be good to go.
Simple, green, yellow,
green, very obvious, very simple to set up, and then you would simply upload that channel change to the device and you're good to go. One last thing. Because of this little thing I told you about where it only transmits for milliseconds, this is what allows them to have a single base but hundreds of gauges, because the odds are 2 gauges are not going to try to come up and transmit at exactly the same time. Even if in the rare occurrence that might happen, the gauges will simply detect that and retry. So it's not an issue. So hundreds of gauges, a single base if that's the configuration you want. So very cool. So what we've got here, relatively inexpensive device. The whole system, a remote module, a cable, and the base. $750.
Great.
If you wanted 4, if you wanted, say, 1 base and 4 remotes, less than $1,800. So really, you could really get outfitted for wireless gauging very quickly. Very robust, works in noisy RF environments, lightweight, 165-foot range. You're good to go. It's pretty cool.
Perfect kind of a thing we like to show off here on Tech Corner.
That's right.
I mean, it's ultimate. I mean, basically, you said it right there. It's compact. It's affordable, it's effective, it's unique technology. Great. Hey, if you have a Tech Corner product or software, hardware that you'd like us to demo for you here on Quality Digest Live, just email us and let us know. The email address again, qdl@qualitydigest.com.
And by the way, you don't have to be a vendor. Typically, these get sent to us. I mean, honestly, these get sent to us by companies that want us to highlight their product. But maybe there's a product you're interested in, and you just want us, hey, can you contact Acme Corporation, see if they're willing to send you something to demo. I'm sure if we contacted Acme and said, hey, we got some people out there that want to see your product, I'm sure they would send it to us.
I'm sure they would. And thank you for MicroRidge for sending that, and thank you, Dirk, for doing that demo. Great. All right, well, next week.